Hello and welcome to MalMakes. Today we're doing a painting based on Metal Gear Solid 3. This is the full version. If you're interested in the time lapse, you can click on the card here. Otherwise, let's get started. In college, Steven bought me a copy of Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater for the PlayStation 2, and in the beginning I had never played a game like that, so I struggled with it, so we ended up turning the setting to easy and we just changed how the game should be played. So instead of sneaking around, we would just run into an area, shout, "I'm Snake," and just really easily get through that part of the game, or any part of the game. So we had a lot of fun doing that, and so Metal Gear Solid has a lot of good memories for me because of that. And I haven't done a painting of it before, but I thought it would be fun to do the boss fight area from Metal Gear Solid 3, where it's all of the white lilies and the forest clearing. So I was looking at it and I was like, oh, I should really push the contrast on this and make some of the darkest areas very, very dark so that the lilies really stand out here in the foreground. So I've drawn out kind of what I want to do, where I have some of the deeper forest here because part of it in the clearing is darker with forest behind it, and then some of it is open to the valley that goes down. So I kind of have a little bit of both here. So we have a little bit of the dark forest and a little bit of the lighter area where there aren't as many trees. So I want to do a base layer down on my canvas first, bringing in some of that value, a little bit of that color, especially for the sky, and then I'm going to start to build everything on top of that. So I'm going to be using some black gesso for the dark areas and bringing in some of the light over here, just to get a good base layer on the canvas. I filled in my deepest shadows with Mars Black so I can start to see the image itself and not lose where things are going to be from the chalk. Now I'm starting back to front, light to dark. So I'm working in the sky here, and I'm starting with this green color, and I have a beige that I'm just bringing in some cloud shapes just to give it sort of some texture, and it's not just this flat green. And I'm trying to blend these in just a little bit, and in some areas I might bring in more titanium white to brighten that up, and I'm also going to fade it into a bluer color towards the top. I've done a lot of work in the background. I started by tapping in some trees back here with a bristle brush, just doing a traditional Bob Ross tapping technique, and that looked really good, but I wanted to start bringing things a bit more into focus. So once I got past that part and started to get into the darkest layers for the background, I took a brush with some black paint on it and tried to tap in individual leaves and branches, and that really helped bring that next layer into focus. I also used some of my different greens that I was using back here and started to bring in light on these hillsides back here to give it a little bit more depth. Also bringing in some of the tree trunks and a little bit of leaves on those trees so they weren't just a solid black mass in there. Next, I want to block in these big trees with some solid carbon black, just so I don't lose where they are, and I also realized that I didn't quite paint close enough like on this one right here, and that'll help me figure out where I need to do a little bit of touch up in the background just to fill in any blank canvas. Once that's done and I have those blocked in, I'm going to fill in some of the flowers. Everything that's really far away back here that sits amongst the trees, not any of the big stuff where you really see the detail, just the little stuff back here. That way I can finish the trees after that and then work into everything in the foreground where some of them might sit on top of some of the bases of these trees. For the ground layer, I started with this dark olive green color, and then I took some Mars Black with glazing liquid and filled in where I want all of the shadows to be, or the areas where you can kind of see into these lilies on the pasture here. So I'm starting with some of my cooler dark grays in a bristled fan brush, and I'm just tapping them in along the very edge of this clearing, just working back and forth and then kind of forward. Once I'm happy with this dark gray layer, I can bring in some lighter grays on some of the lighter areas, but not like the super dark areas, until I'm happy with how it looks basically from here up. Once I'm done with that, because I'm going to end up kind of probably painting on some of these trees like this, I can fill those back in with Mars Black, finish the bark, and then work my way forward with more flowers. I've been building up lots of different grays to fill in all of these flowers. In the background, I was using a fan brush to tap in different colors. I started with a darker gray and then kept building into lighter and lighter grays. I did all of the shadow areas first, and then I did all of the areas that were in sun. And in the sun areas, I built it all the way up into titanium white, and I'm really happy with how that part turned out. Once I got to the midground, I started to do a combination where I did tap in some, but then I started to bring in individual petals with a single tiny stroke of a paintbrush. I did the same thing in the foreground as I was painting these down here. I did all of the shadow areas first, and then I did all of the parts that sit in sunlight with titanium white, just to make them a lot brighter. Now, in order to do that and have like the size gradient go back into the space, I did some of these big flowers until I was happy. So like I was like, okay, this one should be about this big, and then a little bit further back I made one about this big, and then this one, and I kept trying to figure out how big they should be like in each row. And that gave me a good depth of space here, and I'm happy with that. The only thing I want to do yet is fill in some of the centers of the ones where you can see the centers, because right now they're just these like stars, so I want to make them look complete. So I'm going to fill in the centers. I started this one here and make them look like solid flowers. I might clean up a few of these petal edges just so they're super sharp, and then I'm going to fill in just a little bit more green for some of these leaves that stick up, and I'm all set. And we're done. We have the boss fight from Metal Gear Solid 3. If you're interested in this piece, you can buy a poster or a phone case, or bid on this original canvas. There's links down below. Also, consider supporting me on Patreon. You can find out more at supportmal.com. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss future episodes of MalMakes, and I'll see you again here for another video game painting.